Manchester City have won the Champions League. Pep Guardiola has won the treble. They've completed football. They're very, very good. Well done to them. But did Pep Guardiola actually get lucky in the Champions League final? Because this was a really difficult tactical battle and not everything went his way. And everyone thought Man City would win about 5-0, 4-0, something like that, and absolutely batter Inter Milan, who posed them a lot more problems than maybe some of us gave him credit for. So let's try and look at what happened in this game and where Guardiola maybe got things wrong, overthought it possibly, but where he managed to fix things in the second half to make sure they got over the line and won that treble. So let's start with the team lineups, because what we saw on the pitch was very different to what we might have thought we'd see from the team sheets, especially Man City. So we thought it would look like this, the 3-2-4-1, the box midfield with Haaland up top, and you get two wingers like this, and the back three with John Stones dropping into former forward at certain times. Maybe Rodri would drop in because you've got two strikers, so they might always have an advantage. But that is not what they did. Instead, Guardiola made a change to his system and did something he's not done for a long time really, and played a diamond midfield. So Diaz, Ake and Akanji are your defenders, the back three, against two of Inter who will push up here. Then you had Rodri playing as the single number 6 or pivot. Stones went to right midfield, and De Bruyne went to left midfield. Gundogan went behind the striker, and then that's where you get your diamond with these two wingers level with Haaland. So then what you get, obviously, is your 3 here. Here's your diamond, and that's your 3, which is the kind of archetypal Johan Cruyff Barcelona total football. That's what Guardiola's kind of learned from. But because of Inter's defensive shape, it didn't actually look quite like this, or maybe work the way Guardiola hoped it would, because what you saw was that De Bruyne were pushed even further wide like this, Stones went even further wide like this to make them really wide in the midfield, leaving this bit empty, and Inter were filling this bit, so you couldn't really play through them. And they were tracking players with their system as well. So Dumfries was pushing right up like an extra forward. Barella would join in a little bit like this as well, so they had this sort of front four. And what they would do is then flood the rest of the middle of the pitch. So you had players who would be tight. So Acerbi would stay close to Haaland. Darmian would push up onto Grealish. He's a right back, so this is what you kind of get. Bastoni would be maybe the free man at the back here. DeMarco could push and stay tight to Silva. That's what he did. Çalhanoğlu looking after Stones, maybe around here like this. They weren't always man-to-man, but what they tried to do was they stayed nice and tight and compact, made sure the middle was quite blocked off. City would then get the ball and not really have an option, because if the ball went out to Stones over here, someone would come over and stop him and he'd have to go backwards. If the ball went out to the other side of De Bruyne, Barella might come across and try and block him. Every time City tried to build this way, there was someone blocking their path, or it was too risky a pass to go for it. Because they wanted to play it long into Haaland, they couldn't really do that. Acerbi would come in and try and smash it away or something like that, and Gundogan was marked tight as well, so they couldn't quite get the ball from back to front. So a lot of the play was played in this area in the first half. And what Inter were doing was trying to force the ball backwards, because they knew City had this diamond shape at the back. And then as soon as the ball went to one of the defenders at the back, that's when the press started. They pushed in really tight like this, and they went really energetic to try and win it back, and almost forced a couple of mistakes at the back from Akanji especially. And then what would actually happen was the ball would then be cleared, so they could then try and mop up the ball and play with it. But Inter just couldn't really keep the ball when they got it. The plan was to block the middle, force City backwards, and then engage with the press to try and win the ball back in this part of the pitch. That's what they're trying to do. And you can see this shape is not exactly how it played out on the pitch, but it's nothing like what the starting lineup looked like for the game. And these two wide infielders, as part of this diamond shape they're trying to play, were playing more in the wide space rather than the half space to try and get on the ball. And it wasn't working for Guardiola in the first half. So in the second half, he changed it quite a lot. And the change was very simple. It was to do with where John Stones was playing, and it's the general midfield shape. But all of it was to do with how they were unable to build from the back, because Inter kind of had them pinned down. What they were doing, at times, what we know, they were pushing them backwards to then try and trigger the press and get into them. What they were also doing was standing off them in build-up. So they're giving them a little bit of space, trying to encourage them to play forward, play the risky passes, because as soon as the ball was going long, someone would snap onto the player who was free to stop that from happening. Of course, De Bruyne went off in the first half of the injury, on came Phil Foden, didn't really change that much. But what you had was they wait till a player would get the ball, say Akanji here, then they'd engage, go tight, get really close to them, and try and win the ball with high energy, high pressing. And City were playing with like a real nervous energy. They weren't hitting it with the right tempo. None of the players played particularly well. Rodri said he thought he was awful. Grealish said he thought he was awful as well. But a lot of it's to do with how Inter slowed them down, because they couldn't get the ball forward. So the few times they did get the ball forward, it'd be under real pressure and someone would be on them in an instant, and Grealish couldn't really do what he wanted to do. The same with Rodri. If he wandered forward, suddenly he'd find Çalhanoğlu, which is on him. Because Inter were quite happy for City's defenders to have the ball, because they didn't really have forward options. So the natural option was to either close them down and win the ball out the pitch, or force them long. And so the game was kind of boring. They slowed it right down. So the change was, rather than having Stones playing this midfield position, was change all the shape. Stones went to more of a right back. and plays slightly higher. So it's more of the traditional Guardiola shape with wider defenders like this, Rodri back into his normal pivot role, and then Foden and Gundogan either side like this with Holland up top. So it's more like the traditional kind of wingers wide with Silva and Grealish in these parts, and the two free eights. So what we've seen here is Guardiola going from a system that helped him dominate the league and win the FA Cup to get to this treble position with Stones swapping around, that his new system that he's built, to going back to more of his kind of Johan Cruyff roots with a 3-diamond-3 formation. That's right back to what you get from the old Dutch teams and the old Barcelona teams under Johan Cruyff and Rinus Michels. But then what you've done again is gone to this sort of shape and system that we associate more with his Barcelona team back in the day, more of a 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3. And it didn't make too much of a difference. They suddenly were able to play a bit more, but naturally in leaving more space open, they encouraged Inter to come forward a bit more. But Inter didn't really come forward a bit more until City took the lead. So why is it I'm suggesting Guardiola might have been lucky in this game? Well, let me tell you, it's to do with all the tactical things that have happened. His players didn't play very well. Inter clearly had them sussed out and locked down. They couldn't play the ball out from the back, and the changes that Guardiola made did not work. But what we see in the build-up to the goal is all of the key principles of play in the Guardiola team coming together for him to actually manage to win the game. It's to do with quality and the tactical setup. Now, the player on the ball is a centre-back, very Guardiola thing to happen. And then what you've got here is a wide player on the left, obviously, the winger. Then you've got John Stones, who we think of as a centre-back or midfielder now even. He's playing very high up the pitch in this game. He's playing as the right-back. He's the wide right player, having swapped positions with Bernardo Silva, who's moved inside as one of the two free eights. We associate the old Man City teams of like 3-4 years ago with having two free eights and maybe Gundogan and Bernardo Silva behind the forward. So that's what you've got here. The left back is Ake. He's pushed right up the pitch, a little bit more inside. You might think of a left back, but essentially he's got almost overlapping fullbacks. He's got width, he's got his free eights, he's got the ball. Pushing Inter back, they blocked the middle of the pitch, that's what you want. But because he's got this overlapping player, rather than playing inverted and having a winger wide, it means that this player causes a distraction for this one, which means that Akanji can slip the ball through between them for one of the free eights. Things you've always seen from Guardiola players where they're able to create these sorts of rotations to distract defenders. The ball is slipped through, everyone's dragged towards it, and then we see another thing that always happens at Guardiola teams. And that thing that all Guardiola teams do is score from a cutback goal. And what you see here is Bernardo Silva's in, he's going to put the ball into this danger area with all these players running in, but it's all kind of a ruse because there's going to be someone in this space here. Now, it's lucky because Bernardo Silva hits the ball across, it bounces off a defender, and where does it land? In the space where Rodri's coming in. Now, is that luck? Silva didn't mean that, but Rodri is in the right place at the right time to smash it in the back of the net. You could argue this is not luck whatsoever. It's all part of positional play. Players are ready to be in the right place to pounce on the second ball when it's there. But it is a little fortunate. In the same way that City didn't get caught out by this high press, really causing problems from City's defenders. They were really good at that, really energetic. And in the same way that Ederson had to make absolutely crucial saves at the back, denying Lukaku from about 6 yards out, and also seeing the ball bounce off of the bar. But of course, you need luck to win titles, and Guardiola got some tonight thanks to his lucky boy, Mr. Ederson. That's his name, Mr. Ederson. And so that's what happened. Guardiola made changes that helped him win the game, didn't get it quite right from the start. Certain players didn't turn up, and towards the end, nothing to do with tactics whatsoever. It's players being nervous and scared as they're in the Champions League final, minutes away from winning, and they drop ever deeper. And that's how, for the first time in the game, Inter could send all their players forward to give themselves something of an overload. And that's how you got the ball hooked in from the right-hand side to go back into the box for Lukaku to miss that header. And if City had been playing far up the pitch, like Guardiola wanted them to, it wouldn't have happened. So, Guardiola's tactics didn't work from the start. At the very end, his players weren't doing anything like what he wanted them to do, but he got through it, he won the tournament, and our hearts. And that's how they won the treble and signed off the season. A very good time for all. And if you've enjoyed what I've said in this video, do please subscribe to our channel. Sensible transfers coming up soon. We'll see you there.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.